rise together, stronger than ever now. We rise up now.
Our voices matter, the chains we shatter now.
We rise up now. I'm mad, you mad, we matter now. I'm coming, we're coming, the truth comes out. We found it, our voices coming out. Unbounded, we claim our freedom now. Here we go. They wrote the story, we changed the letters now. We rise up.
Hey everybody! Here we go. Oh, I'm so excited to be with all of you today here at the Kingdom. Welcome. I have a very special session for all of us planned today. I have a very special guest for us planned today that some of you know, and if you don't know the woman that's coming in today, you're in for a big, big treat. And as we start all of our sessions here at the Kingdom, I want you to type in where you're coming in from. And if this is your first time ever joining the Kingdom, I want you to type in first time in the chat box, and you'll see all of our community will welcome you here. And I see so many incredible community members here that we know and love. Hello, Laura, and my mom is here, Barbara and Evie and Emily. Everybody, Mary Teresa, my darling, my gosh, who's helped us so much this week. Sonia, Aaron, Kathy, Colleen, Carrie, Brenda. Oh my gosh, our whole community is here. And I'm just so excited to welcome all of the new people here. And so we have from Vancouver and Sacramento and New Jersey to Toronto and Estonia, all over the world, all of us together here. And wow, Missouri and so many first timers. So welcome. Welcome to the Kingdom. You're in for a very special treat today. And so as we go through our sessions of the Kingdom, especially because we have so many first timers here, and I see you, Houston. Hello, Houston. I want to let you all know what our beliefs are here at the Kingdom. We believe that all beliefs are welcome here. A big part of what inspired me to start this session for us was that so many of us feel that the world can be so divisive right now. And we need a space that we can truly come together not despite our differences, but come together in our differences and know that we're stronger because of them. And we believe here that all biologies are welcome here. We believe in the power of music to open our hearts and our minds, and we believe that wisdom can come from many places. And so what you'll know is coming here, I know you've heard in the like promo video for this and me talking about it that I say this is like church and Super Soul Sunday and a TED Talk having a baby. And the reason I say that is because, yeah, we have slides and we have teachings and sometimes we have interviews with special guests like today. But most importantly, we know that wisdom doesn't just come from spiritual or religious texts. It can come from there, and sometimes we'll pull from there. But most commonly, we're weaving together these incredible concepts. And every single session is called the power of something. And so that something is what our concept is, and then we weave in all the different traditions and how they talk about these concepts so that we can embody them into our lives. Here at the Kingdom, we don't just believe in ourself, in these individual bodies, but we believe in an expanded definition of ourselves. And ultimately, we rise together and we know that we're stronger because of our differences, not just honoring or tolerating them. And so welcome everybody. Anna, I see you. Welcome everybody. I'm so excited and so honored to have you here. And for all the new people, this is usually what our sessions look like, so you know what to expect. We're usually together for about 75 minutes total together. And we'll always start with some kind of a song and a poem, and then I'll lead us through a short prayer. And after I lead us through the prayer, I give you about 60 seconds in silence for you to welcome in your own personal prayer your own personal intention for what it is that you want to call in. And whether that's a religious prayer or a spiritual prayer, or you just setting your intention to be present today, is up to you. And then we jump into our teaching. We do a practice. You get a golden nugget takeaway that you'll see at the end today, and then an action that you can take away with you to help embody these teachings into your life. So that this is not just about inspiration, but this is about action. And that's what the kingdom is truly, truly all about. And so I welcome you, I honor you, I thank you for coming here and spending the time to come here today. Some of you have spent lots of time with me over the last few days on New Year's Eve with Manifest and New Year's Day. And now here we are together. And so many of you are going to be joining us for the 40-day program that's starting tomorrow as well. So I just want to say thank you, and it's a great honor to be here at your service. So as we continue on our journey together, I just want to take a moment now to welcome us into a moment of prayer. So what we like to do here is just place your hands over your heart. If you like to do the typical kind of prayer hands, you can as well. But I like to just place my hands right over my chest, anchoring into the root of the heart, and take a deep, full breath in and a deep breath out. Again, a deep breath in and out. Just arriving here now. You are here now. Nowhere to go, nothing to do, but be here now. God, Spirit, universe, all that is, all that ever has been, and all that ever will be, we thank you. Thank you for bringing our community together in heart and mind. Thank you for bringing us together in a space of hope and positivity and unity and togetherness and love. May all the words that are spoken today inspire our hearts and our minds to take action in our lives, to create real change in our lives, to create real, slow, meaningful evolution and change for ourselves, for one another, and for the planet. Thank you for bringing us here together in this community. Thank you for our health and our awareness to be able to come here today. And may every word spoken be used for the benefit of all. This is your moment now to welcome in your personal prayer or intention. God, Spirit, universe, all that ever has been, all that is, and all that ever will be, we thank you. May we be grateful. May we remember to be grateful for the gift of this life. So it is. Ashe, Aho, Salam, Shalom, Amen, Satnam, Om, Awen. Thank you. So here we are. Here we are, together now, rising together now. I don't know if you guys can see the snow outside of the window, but I'm in Tahoe right now with my special guest who I'll introduce to you in just a moment. And welcome to all of the first-timers here and everyone who's coming into our community. It's such a blessing to be with you here today. And hello, Anna and Evie and Susan. I see you all. Tony. So today's session is on something very special, and it's called the power of evolution. The power of evolution. And to share with us today, I have just somebody who I've been dying to get on the kingdom for a long time. It's actually a shock that she hasn't been on yet, but it's perfect that she's on here as our first special guest of the year, because there's no one better that I could think of, really from my heart, to introduce and welcome to our community than Shelly Tygielski. And Shelly is not only a soul sister and a dear, dear friend, but she's an incredible leader, an incredible healer, and a giver. And she's created, among many things, something called the Pandemic of Love that we'll talk about soon. But a space where people have the opportunity, a foundation to be able to give and receive help during this pandemic. And her organization, through the Pandemic of Love, have matched over 1.2 million people and $50 million in aid. And it's just insane. But what we're actually here to talk about today with Shelly has a lot to do with so much of her other work in the world as well. She has an incredible book coming out in October called Sit Down to Rise Up. And she's been a teacher and a healer and a leader and a practitioner, really, of all of this, who embodies these teachings more than anybody that I know. Really, she inspires me to be of such great and deep service into the world and right anchoring into the heart. And so one of the things that inspired me with this episode today that I'm gonna welcome Shelly. She's really just sitting next to me, but I'll welcome her to come sit in the camera in a second. But is this post right here that she wrote that we're gonna unpack. And there's also an article that she wrote as well that has to do with this. And the sign says it all. So Shelly writes these really great posts, and she writes kind of a quote on a sign and on a piece of paper. And it says, "Evolution, not resolutions." And right at the top of her post, as I'm showing here, it says, this year, let's focus on evolution, not resolutions. Incremental change is always more impactful than grand gestures. And there's a lot that we're gonna dig into today here. So Shelly, come on in, take a seat at the kingdom, and everybody, hands up, tell Shelly what's up, everybody. Hi. So let me just make this a little smaller so you can see everybody. So look at them, they're saying skater girl. So Shelly.
Snowboard girl now.
Yes, and snowboard boy. I just went snowboarding for the first time. Shelly's son taught me.
You did great.
I did really good. My legs are sore today though. But yes, and also for those of you who are new here in the kingdom, I forgot to tell you one of our biggest golden rules is that when you hear me or Shelly or anybody say something that makes you want to say like, yeah, or like amen, or I got it, or whatever, you just throw your little emoji hands up. You know, you see them already coming in. And if you don't have emoji hands on your device, just put a little smiley face, and either way is all good. So we're welcoming Shelly here. And Shelly, I love you.
I love you too.
I'm just so grateful that you're taking the time. This is a busy woman, y'all. And I'm just grateful that you're taking the time to let me convince you to come on here today. So I want to just unpack this slowly with you, because I think that so many people are probably starting the year. Mm-hmm. They even hear that I'm doing this 40 Days to Transformation program, and they have this idea in their head about resolutions.
Yeah.
What do you feel is the difference between evolution and resolutions?
So I think that especially in the new year.
Scoot a little closer, actually, if
sure.
you can. Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
You're good. Okay, cool. Yeah.
So I think that especially in the new year, but really throughout our lives, you know, we are so programmed to make these like enormous changes that are just like mind-blowing. You know, those kind of Oprah moments when she takes the robe off and she's like 100 pounds skinnier or whatever. You know, like that's where the wow factor is. And so we're so used to trying to live in the wow.
Yeah.
And I think it's really so critical that we kind of dial that back, because that wow actually that you oftentimes see and that you admire in other people really is the culmination of showing up every day. Consistently every day, whether you want to show up or not. And like, I'm sure you and I have so many stories about how we wanted, you know, we didn't want to show up, but we did anyway.
Yeah.
You know, we managed to somehow like muster up the energy.
Yeah.
Certainly, of course, a lot of times we're happy that we did after we did it.
Always, yeah.
But you know, it's the culmination of that. And it's the one thing that I always tell everybody, including my son, who is sick of hearing it. But the most important thing you can do in life is show up, and just show up consistently, whether you want to or not.
Type that in, y'all. The most important thing you can do in life is show up. Everybody type that in today. Go ahead.
And I think, you know, I think that it's so funny because a lot of times you see people that are successful, or even when you look at like Pandomicable, or you look at the work that, you know, I did with my community in South Florida, like building out a community of meditators on the beach every Sunday morning. When we first gathered, well, actually, there was no
Well, let's talk about this. So this is an amazing example of
Okay.
showing up and how things evolve, because it was this community that ended up actually blossoming open into
Correct.
Pandemic of Love. So
Well, and changing my career, really.
yeah, so start at the
Yeah.
beginning. You decided that you wanted to start hosting meditation at the beach in Florida.
Yeah, well, so I wanted community,
Okay.
right? So I've been a long-time meditator. I've been meditating for over 20 years. And I wanted, really, really missed having like a Sangha, having community. And so the intention was not that I wanted to be a teacher, because I really never in my mind thought like, oh, I'm going to be a meditation teacher. I had a career. I had a fiduciary responsibility to like company and shareholders and other, like a whole other life.
Yeah, you're working total corporate life,
Yes,
right? Total
total.
corporate life. Corporate Shelly, y'all.
That's
You can
right.
imagine.
Yeah, as you could tell, like super corporate here, right here. But yeah, no, I was living a completely corporate life, but I really wanted connection. And so I would go to the beach often, because I lived very close to the beach, to meditate in the morning on Sunday mornings and watch the sunrise. And that was kind of my practice, right? And I would show up alone, and sometimes it would be windy, and sometimes it would be sunny, and sometimes it would be blustery, and you'd get like the sand pebbles in your face, but you would show up anyway. And one day I just decided, it would be so much nicer to have a community or people to connect with, to meditate with together, because as you know, energetically, when we meditate together, it's a completely different feeling and experience than if you meditate alone. Like both are powerful, both are really important, but it's really completely different.
Well, and that's even like people who are coming here live, they can feel the experience is different than if you just watch the recording all by yourself.
Totally.
Right? You feel the energy of coming
of
together.
course,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I wound up, just putting out a Facebook post and to my like 10 friends or whoever it was at the time, this was in 2015. And I wasn't really a big social media person. It's painful for me now too, but I do it. And I just put out a post and I said, hey, I'm going to be meditating on Sunday morning. This was in November. And at 8 o'clock in the morning, and you're welcome to come. This is the address, here are the coordinates, this is the time, this is what, and I will lead you in a guided meditation, which was hard for me because I was like...
You're like, I don't even lead meditation like that.
Because I felt like unworthy, but and that's part of it, right? Like I felt unworthy because I thought, well, I'm not a meditation teacher, but yet I've been meditating for over 2 decades. So it's like, what didn't qualify me? And I had actually even certifications, but I did them for my own edification, like with zero intention to ever teach.
Right.
And I just sort of took that leap of faith because I thought, I'm sure there are other people and a lot of my friends that are going through so many things. And the 12 people who showed up were 12 of my friends who were all going through something in their life, like divorce, or they were empty nesters, or, an illness, or just something. And so we showed up on that Sunday morning, and I remember waking up that morning. It was November 15th, 2015. And I remember because my husband, Jason, said, are you still going to go to the beach? And I'm like, yeah, why? And he's like, have you looked outside? It's like hurricane force winds outside. And I was like, yes, I'm still going. Like, people are expecting it. He's like, no one's going to show up. And I said, I'm going to show up. I'm going to show up.
That's it.
And I get in the car and we get to the beach, to North Beach Park, where we meditate in Hollywood. And it is so windy, Justin. You can't even like get to the water, to the shore, because literally the grains of sand are like exfoliating your skin.
Oh my God.
Like you would need like safety goggles to even get out there. So we wind up, I sit in my car and I see other cars pulling in. And I'm like, okay, those are my people.
They're coming.
And they're coming. And so there are 12 people who showed up. And we wound up sitting in the parking lot, like in dirt, with like ants crawling all over us and what have you. But the point is that I remember saying to them before we started this journey together, I said, if we can meditate here under these conditions, we can meditate anywhere. Right.
That's it.
And so I was reluctant, but I jumped in, and that actually just showing up that day was so important for me. Created a huge shift in my life, for sure, just energetically. Created a shift in my life in terms of like my own self-worth and how I valued myself as a teacher.
Yeah.
But also it really reinforced for me the fact that that I just need to show up.
Yeah. And you know what I think is so powerful here that I want to point out to you all is like, as you can reference it with your dreams, is like, okay, so you have this idea, right? Like this idea that you're going to do, and then it's time to do the idea, and then the rain is pouring and the sand is blowing in your face, and you're like, oh my God, right? So that's like an example of even sometimes this was an external, very clear moment, but sometimes it's the fear and the sand and the wind blowing in your own mind of your fears trying to stop you just before you're getting ready to start doing the thing, right? And then you showed up, and I know that sometimes you showed up, and as it grew, sometimes there was nobody, sometimes there was lots of people, and it grew to be...
Well, it grew to be over, 5 years, a community of 15,000 meditators. And every Sunday morning I would show up, and sometimes there'd be like 150 people, sometimes it'd be 500 people, sometimes there'd be 800 people. It just really depended on the time of year and the weather and everything else. But it's incredible because I just kept showing up. I kept showing up. And so people like really, counted on me. Yeah. And then I learned that incrementally, I think sometimes the other part of us being reluctant to show up is that we feel like we don't have it perfectly coordinated, orchestrated.
The perfectionism.
Right. And so like you analyze things to death. We try to plan. It has to be perfect. No, I don't have the right microphone, or the weather's not great, or I don't know what I'm going to say today, or, I'm not prepared enough. I'm not a good enough teacher. I'm not... All of these excuses and stories that we tell ourselves. And if you just show up, the rest unfolds.
It all unfolds.
And it may not be perfect. It may not be the exact way that you wanted it to be. Oftentimes I would show up to the beach and maybe stayed out too late on that Saturday night, and I probably wasn't at my best. I didn't have the perfect message, but I was always really vulnerable. Yeah. I always shared with people like, hey, I stayed out too late last night. Yeah. And so I probably am not going to be at my best today. But it was that invitation to show up in spite of the fact that you may fail. Because failure is like, I think there's this fear of failure, right? Yeah. But there is no failure because you're failing upward. Yeah, you're learning lessons as long as you keep showing up. There's that, and so as you're saying this, I'm thinking of, I'm sure there were many moments. Or I guess I'll ask you, were there moments when you were really like, I don't want to show up? And you had to force yourself to show 100%. Up. So for people who have that moment in their life, where they're starting these things and they know they want to do slow change, they're starting a diet, they're starting this, they're doing, and they have the day that they don't want to show up. Yeah. What do you do? So, so let's break it down to like the 1 push-up challenge, Okay. This is why the 1 push-up challenge works. Yeah. Because you're like, 1 push-up, like... whatever, I could do that. I probably can't do it, but you can do it. But, wow, 1 push-up, I could do that, and then every day you add up another one and another one and another one. And like in 40 days, you're doing 40 push-ups, theoretically, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's, really the key is that even if you don't want to show up, right? The way that at least that I muster my energy, that I like say, okay, I'm going to show up in spite of myself and in spite of the fact that like I just don't feel like it or I don't feel good or I'm not at my best or what have you. Yeah. Is I think about I think of life like a chessboard. I'm thinking like 3 steps ahead. So you're thinking, if I don't show up, how does this affect the whole rest of the game? I think 3 steps ahead, and I think, okay, number 1, if I don't show up, who's counting on me? Yeah. And when you're doing something for yourself, who's counting on you? Yep. You're counting on you, right? So I think about that. I think about who's counting on me. And like, I know that, and I know this just because of even the way that we're connected. Yeah. It's like 6 degrees of separation. Like it's almost like this domino effect of like, if I hadn't spoken to Jim and Jim didn't speak to you and he didn't connect us and this wouldn't happen and you didn't show up to Chicago and all these things. No, that was a great example of me just showing up. Y'all, just so you know, like Shelly invited me to come to Chicago and teach something that I had no idea was happening. And we didn't know each other. We had never met. We talked on Zoom and she was like, just get on a plane. And I was like, okay. And so like I just went, but like my intuition knew, and I had no idea what we were even doing. Really, you gave me like a little bit of context. No, we didn't figure it out till that evening, the night before. Yeah, I mean,
So there's a couple things that I want to pull out for you guys here that I just want to pull the string on a little bit, because I think this is important as it relates to the things that we're all stepping into in our journeys, whether it's in the 40-day transformation or the things that you're doing in your own life. Is number one, you said something about vulnerability.
Yes.
That's a thread to pull, because a lot of times you think that you have to show up as this best version of yourself that you're expecting yourself to be perfect all the time.
Yeah.
And that's just not real, right?
Totally
and so I
not.
love the idea of you at the beach saying, you guys, I stayed up a little bit too late last night. I may have had a little bit too much bourbon, but I'm going to do my best. You know, like I'm going to do my best.
Telling all my secrets.
Right? and just show up. But in your own life, even if you're not teaching meditation or in front of people, you might show up to your workout one day, or you might show up to your vocal practice and be like, I just don't feel it today.
I didn't hit that note, or I didn't like hit my, heartbeat
my reps,
rate,
or I'm
whatever.
tired, but you can just show up.
Yeah, even just the practice of showing up and not doing your best, just that habit, like reinforcing that default mode of just like getting into the mode of showing up is so important.
Yeah.
It's it's honestly how I build out like every single thing that I do. And it's something that I talk about in my book as well, is about like this practice of like chunking things out.
Talk to us about that. What does that mean?
So I had a teacher who used to say this to me, and when I was like really young, I didn't understand what it meant. I actually was like, what are you talking about when she said it? Because it sounds offensive in a way. But she would say, Shelly, you can't eat an elephant at once. You have to eat it one bite at a time. And all I focused on was like
who
who's
wants
eating
to eat
an elephant?
Yeah,
right,
that's
exactly.
what I'm thinking right now.
But actually, like later in life, when I was like, oh yeah, that's like actually so true. Like you can't, I would want to like accomplish everything at once or have everything ready or prepared. I, like you, type A personality, overachiever, everything had to be above and beyond, like other people would come in with dioramas at school. Like I'd have like that, a board and like a presentation and the whole 9 yards, and that's exhausting first and foremost. But the point of the matter is that I finally realized that the best way to get to where I want to go is incrementally, is one bite at a time, because then I'm like building, adjusting, as opposed to sitting with a whiteboard, trying to plan something out.
The whole thing.
Yeah. And then like thinking it's going to be perfect. And what happens upon launch? It's never perfect.
And then you have to adjust anyway, and your whole plan goes to shit, usually in the first place.
No, it's true, but think about it. Like, why does Apple keep releasing, or Microsoft keep releasing products, and then they have updates? Because if they would wait for it to be perfect, they'd never release a new product.
That's it.
So you should be okay with releasing something that is just good enough. Yeah. And that's actually something that Liam taught me. Because
Liam is her son.
Liam's my son. And Liam and I used to be so frustrated when he was younger, because I was like that overachiever child. And so I expected as a parent for him to be the same way. When he would like put together a board that had like 5 pieces of macaroni on it, and it'd be like, what? This is what you're turning in? And I kind of had to like take a step back and be like, okay, this is what he's turning in, And he once looked at me and just said, Mom, good is good enough. And I was like, good is good enough. Okay, I get it. So basically, he is okay. Sometimes it's okay with like putting out just a good enough product.
Yeah.
And then building upon it daily and massaging it and pivoting and being flexible.
It says, enough is a feast, sitting right behind us.
Yeah, my friend Sam made that. Samantha made that
Yes,
for me.
oh, Sam.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think this is really important. 2 things. Because the perfectionist in me, that part inside of me, when you're saying like, it just has to be good enough, I'm like, ugh. Like there's that part of me that cringes, you know what I mean?
Totally.
And I'm like, well, what if it's only good enough sometimes, but like usually I'm perfect? You know what I mean? Or like that part, you know what I mean? Like that part creeps in. I've moved past that, thankfully, in a lot of ways. But the other piece of this that I think is important is that incremental step part. Because like a lot of people, they look at their goals and they say they're trying to get from A to Z.
Yes.
And the way that you get to A to Z is going A to B.
Yeah.
B to C.
Correct.
C to D.
Yeah.
And so what you just have to understand, though, is sometimes you don't even know what C is until you've done B.
Right.
And so you think you know every single step of the plan, and then you show up and something changes. And so you might as well begin and start getting feedback to start reiterating to evolve.
Well, that's one part of it. And I think the other really important part of it that we really can't like miss here is that as you're going from A to B and B to C and C to D, it's not a habit yet. It doesn't become a habit, right?
Yeah.
And then slowly but surely, as you consistently show up and you're kind of going through the motions, you are creating new default modes for yourself.
Yep.
And you are creating these habits. And nothing in life is more important than habits.
Yep.
Showing up is a habit. So there's nothing more important in life than creating positive habits that can build upon themselves. But the point is that habits are eating the elephant one piece at a time.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's just chunking it out and doing it every day or consistently enough. You know, you want to write a book? Write 100 words a day.
Yeah.
And guess what happens at the end of 356 days? You've got a lot of words that you can start to like, you know, manifest and put together into a book. And it's people will say to you, "Oh, wow, you wrote a book," you know, and it's like, no, honey, I've been writing that book for like a year now. And you know what I mean? I've been chipping away at this like over and over again. Like you think about how a beautiful, you know, sculpture like the David was created, right? It's just like one little chisel at a time.
Yeah, this is perfect. I love Heather saying here, she says, better imperfect than unfinished, someone once told me. It's amazing. And there was another quote up here that Alonzo had said that I'm trying to scroll to that was great, but I lost it because you guys are so beautifully active in the chat. Well, if I find it, I'll let you know. But it's just, you know, the other thing that was really important to me, and as you were talking, is I thought about even with the kingdom, like there have been, I don't know if you have all have known or not, but my mom has definitely known, but there's been like a few Sundays when I have just like not felt good, you know, like, and I was like, okay, like I'm showing up, you know, like I was one Sunday, I was like feeling super sick and super under the weather. And I went and got a COVID test the next day because I thought maybe I had COVID. I didn't. But like just that act of like, okay, I'm showing up like this. And sometimes I'll finish the session and be like, that was okay.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, I don't know that you all feel that. You know, you're probably just like, you might even be like, that wasn't his best one. But you hopefully get something out of it. And what would it be like if I was just like, hey, guys, not canceled. The kingdom's canceled today because I don't feel like it,
totally.
You know? So,
exactly.
Okay, so I want to transition us a little bit because teaching on the beach, right, led to this moment with Pandemic of Love. And, you know, over time, right? So this is the narrative that I have in my mind. So tell me if this is right. So Shelly's teaching on the beach. This whole community builds. Pandemic hits, everything stops. And you have this realization that there's so many people in your community that need help and so many people in your community that can give help, but don't know how to actually give help to people in the local community.
Okay, but you skipped like 3 steps.
What did I skip?
So let me tell you.
What?
So this is how showing up works, right? Okay, so I started teaching on the beach in 2015, quit my job in the summer of 2016, and then there was an election in November of 2016. And I originally, when I quit my job and thought, I'm going to teach mindfulness full time, thought that I was going to go teach in the corporate world because I figured that's where my voice is the most authentic, right? I had to claw my way from like a corner office, from a corner cubicle to like, you know, a corner office, right? And so who better than me to like tell people like how to, you know, balance the corporate life with you know, the rest of what's happening in the world. And I wasn't feeling it, you know, I wasn't called to that. And after the election, I was, like many people, really devastated. And I decided that I needed to start showing up in a very different way as an activist. I didn't want to complain anymore. I was sick and tired of just feeling depressed and upset. And I was like, I got to roll up my sleeves and I got to figure out this connection between the inner work and the outer world. And how do we connect those two things? And so I'll fast forward a little bit, but I basically, you know, was working with the Women's March organization. I was working with ACLU and Planned Parenthood and all these other incredible organizations, working on helping activists build resilience through compassion-based training, right? So that they wouldn't get compassion fatigue, because I knew this was going to be a marathon and not a sprint. And I saw the burnout that was happening all around me. And in that journey of like working with activists, I realized that it's not just about creating coping plans or self-care plans, but it's really about creating communities of care, creating these safety nets for people that can help the coping plan
Work
work,
and stay in place.
be sustainable, and remove obstacles.
Yeah.
Help hold people accountable too.
Communities of care, y'all. That
Yeah.
type that I feel like that's what we're creating here at
Yes.
the Kingdom with each other. This
Totally.
community of care. This is amazing.
Totally.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so that coping, creating those coping plans, and I was like, wait, this is just not it. We've got to also like expand it out to now create this like buddy system and these communities of care where people can hold each other accountable, work together, right? And remove those obstacles. And so one of the pillars of communities of care is mutual aid.
Mutual aid. Okay.
Yeah. So
okay.
mutual aid is what Pandemic of Love is. In its simplest form, right? And what is mutual aid? Mutual aid is basically a principle that every single human being on this planet and in your community, of course, therefore, has something that they can offer. And every person in this world and in your community, therefore, has something that they need. It doesn't matter what your socioeconomic status is. It doesn't matter what that thing is. But everybody is worthy. Everybody matters. Everybody has something that they can offer.
Yeah.
And so if we can somehow, reveal those things in a safe way, in a simple way, and in a way that removes the fear of asking for help, right? Because that is the biggest challenge for so many people is just the ask. Having to ask for help, right? Feeling like you're not enough or like you're unworthy or embarrassed or, just that vulnerability.
Yeah. Asking for help is really hard for a lot of us.
Yes,
Yeah.
of course it is. It's because you feel like it's validating all these negative feelings that you have about
You're
yourself.
a failure. You didn't show up enough. Why don't you have? All those different
I didn't save
things.
enough money. I didn't do this.
Yeah.
So all of these stories that we tell ourselves, right? And so when we remove those obstacles by creating a safety net, right, a community of care, and we just kind of expose it all in a simple way, and we started to do that with these activist communities. Then I started to do it with our community in South Florida as a model, like a micro model, just to see like, hey, is this working? Like, can it work on a bigger level? Can it work with 100 people? Can it work with 500 people? Can it work with 1,000 people? And it worked beautifully for things like back to school and when we had hurricanes in South Florida, and people needed help with just all sorts of things. It worked beautifully during the holiday season, when people just didn't have enough for gifts for their kids or food for the 2-week time period that they weren't going to get free or reduced lunch at school. Yeah. And so as I started to kind of like really hone in on mutual aid and building that model of true communities of care, when the pandemic hit, I feel like I was already like in the right place at the right time.
You were primed.
Yeah, with that experience of showing up, and my community already knew what to do.
Yes.
Right?
Your community knew how to do it because you've already created a community of care.
They were already
there. They knew how to
correct.
show up. They were already vulnerable.
Totally.
They were ready to ask for help.
Right.
Ah.
Right. So I posted 2 links.
This is amazing, y'all. Listen how this happens. Come here. Okay, so she posts 2 links.
So I post 2 links, and Justin will tell you that I'm not a technologically savvy person. Like I'm actually, by the way, just a side note, because you can't see what I'm looking at, but I'm looking at his screen and there's like all these windows open and it's like giving me anxiety, but it's all right.
It takes a lot to produce this like this.
Yes,
so
because
anyway.
I'm like, I can't even figure out Zoom, but we're good. So I was like, okay, I know how to use Google Sheets and I know how to use Google Forms. So I'm just going to create 2 simple forms, the give help and the get help form. And I'm going to put the 2, I couldn't even figure out how to get both links on like one page or anything. I was like, I'm just going to put the 2 links up on my Facebook page and do an Instagram post. And
so it was one form give help and another form was get help.
And
super simple.
It started with 5 simple questions on each side. I didn't even ask people like, what's your zip code or where are you from? Because I just assumed they'd be from my community.
Yeah.
And it was really simple. It's like, what do you need? What do you need right now? And what can you give, right now in this moment of disconnection when we really need to be connected? And so people at that time, when I posted it, and I looked at the forms the next morning, people were asking for things like help with groceries to fill the fridge because we were sheltering in home, pay my phone bill so that it doesn't get shut off, my utilities, etc. Right?
Internet for their kids because they couldn't pay it and all their kids were working from home.
100%, right? Like I'm
yeah.
immunocompromised and I can't go to the grocery store. I need somebody to deliver groceries to me, etc. And I woke up the next morning after posting it on March 14th And I was shocked because there were like hundreds and hundreds of people who filled out both sides of the form. And it was incredible because as I was looking, I didn't recognize like 90% of the names. And I was like, what is going, like, who are these people? Where are they from? And I was looking at the phone numbers and they were area codes I didn't recognize. And then I had realized that a few influencers who were on my page like basically reposted it, and then it just went crazy.
Yeah.
Right? It went viral.
Literally viral.
Right. And
Yeah.
it was proof in that moment for me that a couple of things. One, that love is infectious.
Yes.
That it's, this culmination of this work is of showing up actually led to this one grand moment. So it looked like to other people like, oh, this woman in South Florida who was sitting around her kitchen table had an idea.
All of a sudden just put up a form.
Right, like I just had
That's
an idea.
almost how I told the story too.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. When you look at those moments, it goes back full circle to what we started with at the beginning.
Yeah.
You only see like the culmination of that work, but nobody knows like the 4 years of labor and work and proof, like modeling that had to go into this, right?
Yeah.
That pivot, that A to B.
And this is that A to B.
C.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, and so the proof is that love is infectious, that hope is infectious, that kindness is infectious, and that really, I think, at a time when fear was just taking over love in that moment, like people were just so afraid, and also a lot of people were like, who are used to being of service, didn't have a way to be of service because they couldn't go volunteer somewhere outdoors or like at a food bank or, eventually we figured out like systems and ways to do it safely. But initially, remember, we couldn't even get masks, right? You couldn't even find like a mask to put on to go like help somebody. So, so that
I'll never forget when you called me. I was sitting in Christy's little studio and you called me, you're like, Justin, there's like all these freaking people on this form. It's like I'm up all night like matching people, and people don't see that part. Like you're literally up like matching people and then volunteers and like the whole thing. So I want to take us, just for the sake of time, I want to take us to where we are now. So I want you guys to see you followed this whole trajectory. These 2 forms get put out. Now, today, you've been featured as a CNN hero, featured on CNN, which I was so blown away watching that happen. You've matched how many people?
We've matched over 1.2 million people.
In how many different communities? Do you know that offhand?
Yeah, we have now over 240 communities, and we're actually onboarding another 80 since the CNN story ran.
And so what's so amazing about this, when you say communities of care, like it's micro communities that get formed locally so people in local communities can connect with one another and help inside of these local communities.
Yeah, because that's what's going to be sustainable over time. Like long after the pandemic is over, mutual aid is not going to go away, or it shouldn't go away, really. It's a new order. Yeah. We have this opportunity now post-pandemic when we emerge from this, right? And we're seeing how we're readjusting and dismantling systems in other ways, right? Yeah. There's a new system that we can now put into place in every municipality in this country, in every town, in every community, in every neighborhood. And it's mutual aid.
And it's amazing
free,
because
and it's simple. It's just,
have, what I want to say that to make people understand is you said this the other day, that somebody called you a nonprofit disruptor.
Yes.
Because it's a new model. What normal nonprofits work like, right, is you donate to the nonprofit distributes the money in all these ways to their staff, to this, to that, and then some percentage of it that you may never know goes to the kids. And you kind of sometimes, I have nonprofits that I donate to, and sometimes I'm like, I don't even know what this money's doing.
Right.
With Pandemic of Love, they don't even have a bank account.
No.
The person who's getting help and the person who's giving help, they get connected, and you do it directly. Like, we signed up this community through Pandemic of Love.
Thank you so much, everyone.
We did 2 families for the holidays, and just so you all know, we got everything on their list, right? So the 2 families, and so we got gifts for the families directly. And then I've volunteered or signed up to give help to a man who was going to lose his house for his mortgage, and a group of us band together to help pay his mortgage. And what was so amazing is I got to talk to the man on the phone. Yeah. And he's telling me about his newborn child, and I get to show this white man who's living in the country, in literally who's living in the country on the East Coast, in the South, that this black man just helped him pay his mortgage, and like the connection of love that happens in between that is so humongous.
Well, that I think is the most important part of mutual aid, is that it is direct. It's a direct form of giving. And so what we do, and like even aside from this matching process that happens continuously, like every day we match an average of probably 1,200 people a day now across our community, sometimes up to 2,500 people a day.
Yeah.
But every day on my Instagram stories, I highlight the extenuating circumstances, like people who literally like, here's an eviction letter. If I don't come up with $4,000, like tomorrow, I'm gone. Yeah. And we've been crowdfunding. Some people only have $5 to give, and that's another really incredible kind of pivot point that I wasn't expecting to do or use social media in that way. And it's so incredible because we pay it directly. Yeah. Like somebody has a phone bill and they're like, my phone just got turned off, or like right before Christmas.
I paid that woman's car. I paid her car. Yeah. I paid the mechanic directly for her car.
Oh yes, that's
Remember
right.
that?
Yeah. So there was like a woman who like finally got a job and like, but now her car broke down. She couldn't get to the job. So like, here she's finally like starting to move forward, and it's like start, stop, start, and you guys can all resonate with that. And so we paid the mechanic directly, like we had his PayPal account, or and today like we have a woman on there that her name is Asia, and she is from Texas, from Huntsville, Texas, and her landlord originally, when I called her, hung up the phone on me, didn't want to talk to me, and she was like, I'm not making any exceptions for her anymore, blah blah blah. And I was like, listen, just give me till Wednesday and we will come up with the $2,600, and it might drip in, but we're going to send it directly to you. And she's like, I don't have Venmo. And she finally got a Venmo account, and now the money's like dripping in, and Asia will get to stay in her house and has a job so she can continue to make payments. But it's so hard for people to like, we're closing the gap for people, that chasm. Yeah. Because otherwise you can't get out of that cycle.
And we feel so alone. And there's that feeling that so many of us have, where either you're in a hard spot, and I think we've all been on a different spectrum of this, where you're in a hard spot and you feel alone, or you're watching what's happening and you feel like you can't do anything.
That's right.
You're like, what can I do? Correct. What can I do? And you've closed that gap. So I want to tell people, if you're here watching and you can give help, you need help, or you know someone who needs help or can give help, you go to pandemicoflove.com.
That's
Every
right.
single person type that in here in the chat box right now so you don't forget. Pandemicoflove.com. And for people who might want to start their own micro community, how do they do that?
Same thing. Go to pandemicoflove.com, and on the homepage, there's actually a link that says on the bottom, I want to start a micro community. And then you get trained, and we send you the links. And then you're also part of this community of care of other amazing, amazing Pandemic of Love volunteers all around the country and all around the world, which is amazing. These people are just incredible human beings who have stepped up since March. They're really amazing. What I want to say also is that, especially for those of you out there that need help, who are a part of this community, if you have an extenuating circumstance, if you're really behind on rent, if your car is about to get repoed, if you are worried about, just how you're going to put food on the table for your kids, etc., then just go to, actually the best way is, because I'll know that you came through here, is just send me a DM on Mindful Skater Girl is
I'll type it in here. Her Instagram is Mindful
Skater Girl. And I'm taking Justin skateboarding next, by the way. That's like my next project.
I went snowboarding. I don't know about skateboarding, but we'll see.
But if you send me a DM and you gather your bills, we will crowdfund and get those things paid off for you. And it may take a week or so, but we'll get it done.
And feel like, let yourself be vulnerable if you're there.
Yeah.
Right? That's the piece of it.
This is a safe space.
This is safe. We've created this community here.
Yeah.
So tying this back now, Shelly, to this is, there's so much to dig into, And I want to go back to your post about evolution, resolutions, and digging into why that is so important. Because you said like resolutions now like make you cringe, right? Yes. Because you know like what goals. Showing up takes. So talk to people about that. I know you have a good lesson on this.
We taught this in the Liberation Experience, and we talked about like basically creating our own mandalas around intentions. Like for I don't know, almost 40 years of my life lived a goal-centered life. I lived a life where, you know, I had constant to-do lists and I had goals. Like, I want to be the CEO of a company by this age, and which, you know, I was able to achieve. However, I felt so empty when I got there, you know, like I want to have this house and I want to have this car and I need to do this and I need to do that. And I think a lot of us have experienced, especially if you're here, I'm imagining this resonates with you, because you get to a certain place in your life and you're like, is this as good as it gets? Like, is this it? Like, why do I still feel so empty? And so what I've pivoted to is I pivoted to living an intention-based life. Okay. And every single thing that I do is centered around intentions, not goal. And so my goal, my intention in life, as you very well know, is to be in service, right? I just want to be a kind person and a patient person and in service and to leave the world a better place, you know? And as cheesy and cliche as that may sound, but the point of the matter is that every single thing that I put on my schedule, every single thing that I do on a daily basis, I go back to that intention. Yeah. And so that's, you know, very different than making a resolution and saying, I'm going to lose 30 pounds by this date. Or I'm going to be happy. Yeah. I'm just going to be a kind person. You can't just wake up and just be happy, as you all know. It's a journey, you know, like, and it's fleeting. You know, it's moments of joy. And so I think if you center your life around intentions and around gratitude and around whatever that word is for you, a lot of times we see these words now, they're like on t-shirts and hats and on little rocks that you put outside your door, and you're like, what does that even mean? Like, you know, but if you can ascribe like meaning to that word, if you ask yourself every day, like, how is this, how can I cultivate this intention in my life today? So this is your action takeaway right now, you guys, for what you can do. Go ahead. Yeah. How can I cultivate this intention in my life today? First of all, what is my intention today? How can I cultivate this intention in my life today? Mm-hmm. And then another kind of mantra or something that I actually wrote today in my post was, if it doesn't evolve me, it doesn't involve me. So if it doesn't evolve you, it shouldn't involve you. Mm-hmm. Right? If it's not centered around your intention. Yeah. And the intention can't be like CEO or president or whatever. The intention's not a noun. No. It's a verb. It's a verb. It's or an adjective. Right. Well, it's action. Yeah, it's an action. Something actionable. Yeah. And you have to then incorporate that into your life. What does it look like? So for example, if my intention today is, well, actually, I'll tell you, my intention today was patience. And so, when I'm at the supermarket today and the person in front of me has to run back to get milk because they forgot milk, and that like holds me up, I just, you know, I have to think back to that intention for today and say, okay, this is an opportunity for me to practice patience today. You got that this morning too. I remember earlier when I saw that. So this is an opportunity for me to practice patience this morning. And you know what? And I will tell you that sometimes you will falter during the day. There will be times where somebody will cut you off in traffic and you may not be that patient with that person, but the point of the matter is that you can always come back to that intention for the day. So this is where, for those of you who've been following on the journey, look, people are, listen, they're saying, preach, prophet, Lord, help us, like, with the, if it doesn't involve me, it doesn't involve me. It's amazing. And, you know, what is so important, and a lot of you have been rooted in this now. We discovered in Manifest and in the New Year's Day event, like, what is the intention, the word, the thing that you're trying to embody most for this year, right? What is it for 2021? And it's not just a fluffy, like, oh, my intention is joy. So, ta-da, like, I'm just going to be joyful. Like, you know. No, it's, look, this is something we talked about on Liberation Experience as well, is that, like, so this really, I have like a million mantras, but like my main mantra. They said you're like, dropping bars. Yeah. I don't even know what that means. I'm so white, but yeah. But really, what does that mean? Like rapping, like bars. I am. You know what I mean? I'm dropping bars for sure, 100%. I thought it's like we're going to the bar after this. Oh my God. But yeah, so, you know, on the Liberation Experience, what we talked about was, when we talked about the mandala and about intentions, we talked about if only for today. Yeah. And that relates so well back to habits.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
like micro habits and chunking things out. Every single day, I say this to myself every day, like 100 times a day. And I'm like, oh Lord, if only for today.
Yeah.
If only for today I can be patient.
Yeah.
Just today. Tomorrow, my intention may be kindness. Tomorrow, my intention may be joy. It may be, inner peace. It could be anything. But if only for today I could just focus on trying to be a patient human being, then that will help me show up
In your evolution.
Right, in my evolution and evolve. It'll be like another way that the water sort of runs over that rock and over
Yeah.
time like smooths it out, right? And
Yeah.
so, that's really it. If only for today.
Yeah.
And so if you chunk things out in that way, if you're eating the elephant one bite at a time, if only for today, you only eat one bite of that elephant, right? And just as an FYI, I know elephants got harmed in this experience.
She's also vegan.
I am also
PS.
vegan. I don't eat elephants. I just want to put that out there. But if only for today, you could just focus on that little one thing that you can do.
Yeah.
And every day keep showing up. Over time, you will have digested that whole elephant.
That's it. Everybody, this is incredible. What I want you all to type in, okay, right now into the chat box is if you could we'll do this together really quick. Just close your eyes for a moment, hands over your heart, take a deep breath in, and following this inspiration from Shelly, if only for today, what is one word that you can use to describe the intention that you're gonna live by? If only for today. And just feel it root up from your heart. Not even what you expected that you're supposed to do to be productive or to show up, but what is it that will help in your next step of your evolution, that A to B? And then take a deep breath in and out and type it into the chat box so we can see these cascading through. And while you're all typing all of this in, I think one of the most important things that we have to know, and this is why even in the program that so many of you are doing with the 40 Days to Transformation and all the different things that we talk about and offer here in the kingdom and the liberation experience for those of you who don't know, you've heard me talking about Shelly, we co-host the liberation experience together, which we'll be launching again in the beginning of next year at some point, probably March or April. And there's a big difference between change and transformation. Huge difference, right? Things change all the time. You change your clothes, we change presidents, we change leaders, you change country, you change your house, you change your job, you change. If you have not done the evolutionary work to transform, then the changes don't do anything.
Nothing.
Right? That you just stay stuck in the same cycles. And I know Shelly's commitment with all of her work, my commitment with all of my work is to not just be on this bullshit, let's change, whatever that is, you know what I mean? It's like, no, what's the real work? So that you can do, they're typing in all their words here.
Yeah, I see it.
Authentic and connection and conscious and inner peace and self-care and savor.
I love it.
Be present. Wow, okay, they're coming through fast.
That's great.
Be here now. Embody kindness, personal power, grace. And so, Shelly, before we close out, is there anything that you want to share with the people in closing? I just want to give you
Is there anything I want to share with the people?
I just want to give you a...
Oh, that's your foot.
That's my
touching your
foot.
foot.
Yeah,
I'm
it's okay.
massaging his foot. I thought that was Boo Boo. She's right there. What do I want to share with people? Well, first of all, I want to share that I'm really grateful for your presence in my life.
Oh my God, I love you.
It has really just helped me evolve in many ways. Don't cry. It helped me evolve in so many ways. And it's pushed me to really dig deeper and examine certain areas of my life that I don't think I necessarily would have gotten there if it wasn't for you. So I really appreciate that about you. So I want to share that publicly, just the gratitude that I feel and how wonderful it is to have started the new year with you.
Yeah, there's literally
right?
nobody in the whole universe
It's
that
so
I should spend the
amazing
new year
because we
with
have
you.
so many incredible things coming up this year that we'll share with you over
Eventually,
time.
yeah.
Yeah, and I want to share with people that don't be so hard on yourself. Please. I think we beat ourselves up so much that if anybody else would have done it to us, we would have left a long time ago. And so be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself first and foremost, because if you're not kind to yourself, you're not going to be able to be kind to other people.
Yeah.
And the last thing that I'll say to you is this, is that you are doing the inner work for a reason. The inner work you are doing is not to just make yourself feel better and whole. You know, that's part of it. It's important. You want to feel good. You want to feel well. You want to be able to show up and not be as fractured, if you will. But what I will say is that, number one, there's beauty in those fractures.
Yeah.
And secondly, the reason that you're doing this work is so that you can show up for others. And so if you fail to see the connection between that inner work, and the outer world, you're missing the point.
Yeah.
You're totally missing the point.
Yeah.
That's where you're really going to be able, by leaps and bounds, to evolve, is when you finally are able to show up for others and for the world and for your community, because it's going to give you more than you're actually giving out to other people.
Yes. And you know what? I think that right there that you just said, Shelly, that's the binding thread that binds us together in the work that we do.
Yeah.
In who we are.
Yeah.
You know, is because we know that the work that you're doing, the internal work, this human potential movement, self-help work, it's the wrong word. It's not about yourself.
No.
It is about yourself, but it's
Yeah.
only about yourself insofar as
Yeah.
it's healing you, and you're healing generations forward and backward. And so, everybody is losing their minds here for you, Shelly. I'm just so
I'm
grateful.
dropping bars, guys.
She's dropping bars. and I will say, and I've said this to you many times, you know, that you are just the biggest light in my life right now. You're showing, you literally, there's no one in the whole universe that embodies service more than you, and you are teaching me and honing me in a way that I don't know that anybody has in years. So I'm just grateful. You know, this woman teaches me how to be of service, and y'all know I like being of service, but like when I'm next to her, I'm like, oh, I need to be more of service. You know what I mean? And so I just thank you.
I love you.
And she makes bomb-ass breakfast sandwiches, just so you guys know, in the morning. So I just want to make sure that you all know, as we're digging into the start of the year. What do they say?
Time to go eat some elephant.
Time to go eat some elephant. Go, Eric. So just before we close, you know, I want to make sure that you all know about the 40 Days to Transformation program that's launching tomorrow. And if you're new to learning about this, I just want to give you, you know, a quick heads up of what it is. Our whole community is joining together for a program of 40 Days to Transformation, which is not a 40 days, your whole life's gonna change. You know, it's like really to get in and do this work,
Right.
to do the work on your self-sabotage, on your shadow, every day, little micro rituals that will help you learn. And the big piece of it is it's not just about creating your vision. Woo, what's the vision? Living it. How do we actually evolve to live it? And so I know a lot of you have joined. If you're somebody who's already joined, can you just type in like, I'm in, so that I know which ones of you are here. And if you are wanting to join the 40 Days to Transformation and you haven't, I'm just gonna put the link here in the chat box for you. It's just justinmichaelwilliams.com/transform. That's the link. I'm popping it in the chat box, and I think I'll put it up on the screen for those of you who are watching the replay as well. Just give me a second to get back to our slides. This is Shelly's quote that we started with, and this right here is the link to the 40-day program. justinmichaelwilliams.com/transform. It begins tomorrow. So tomorrow is your last day to register. Registration ends at noon Pacific time tomorrow. That's 3 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. And our scholarship applications close today. So fill out a scholarship application if you need support. Again, as we're building these communities of care, like Shelly so beautifully said to us today, we're able to offer scholarships to every single person who needs them. And even if you've already gotten a scholarship from me, it doesn't matter. Apply. We're happy to give you more. So I just want to, close out, Shelly. If you would be, look at so many of them are in. This is amazing.
Yay.
I just want to close out. There was two things that I wanted to ask you to do, and one of them you could tell me no.
Sing Mariah Carey?
No, sing the Four Non Blonde song.
Oh, God.
Can we do it?
With my guitar?
With your guitar.
Oh my
Go
God.
get it.
Are you serious?
Yes, come on, I'll sing it with you.
Oh,
We got to just show up.
are you kidding me?
Yes, okay, so y'all, I found out Shelly can play guitar and kind of has some vocals, and so we're going to have Shelly close us out with the song. Bring the iPad thing with you. and I'll put it up here. And so, what we'll do, Shelly's gonna sing a song, What's Up? And I told y'all, and I did not tell her we were doing this, it just came to me. And before we do that though, I think what we'll do is we'll close with a prayer together, okay? We'll close with a short prayer. So just place your hands over your heart, close your eyes. And as Shelly is preparing to show up, God, Spirit, Universe, all that is, all that ever has been, and all that ever will be, we thank you. Thank you for bringing Shelly into our lives. Thank you for helping us understand how to show up. And our prayer, our intention, is that we can show up for the fullness of our lives. Thank you. Thank you for letting Shelly's guitar be fully in tune and ready to rock. We are grateful. So it is. Amen.
Okay, what was the other thing?
Well, the other thing, I was going to ask you to lead us in a closing prayer because you do such good prayers.
I do?
Yeah, you did a prayer for dinner the other night. So
Well, I didn't write that. That's
somebody asked here if they join the 40-day program. I'll just let you guys know, is there a replay? Yes. So we're only together live once a week on Monday nights. And then everything else is an audio recorded practice that are short. They're like 12 minutes a day. And you get a little workbook to work through. And if you can't join live on the Mondays, there's recordings of everything. So you can do it on your own time in any way. Go grab it.
Christy, can you bring my capo?
I don't think she knows what that is. Oh, she does. Okay. So, Christy, I think you're going to have to come in here now for this too. Come on, Christy. Come sit on the fireplace. No, do it with it so that we can do it. All right, everybody. So here is, let me turn this off. So Shelly and I have been exploring music, and this is Christy Christensen. Many of you know was already a guest on The Kingdom.
So Justin's been teaching me about Mariah Carey, and I've been teaching Justin about Bob Dylan.
We belong together.
That's right. 25 years and my life is still
Trying to get up that great big hill of hope
If you know it, sing along.
for a destination.
I realized quickly when I knew that I should that the world was made up of this brotherhood of men.
For whatever that means.
And so I cry sometimes when I'm lying in bed just to get it all out what's in my head. And I'm feeling
A little peculiar.
And so I wake in the morning and I step outside and I take a deep breath and I get real high and I scream at the top of my lungs, what's going on?
All together, everybody.
And I said, hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, yeah.
I said, hey, what's going on?
And I said, hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, yeah.
I said, hey, what's going on?
And I try. Oh my God, did I try?
We try, y'all.
I try every single time in this institution. And I pray. And oh my God, did I pray? I pray every single day for a revolution. And so I cry sometimes when I'm lying in bed just to get it all out what's in my head. And I'm feeling
A little peculiar.
And so I wake in the morning and I step outside and I take a deep breath and I get real high and I scream at the top of my lungs, what's going on? And I said, hey, yeah.
still. I'm trying to get up that great big hill of hope for a destination.
I love you. Oh my God. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for showing up. That's showing up, y'all. That is showing up. Shelly Tygielski, everybody. And Christy Christensen on the background vocals, and our entire community here, literally singing and chanting with us. We feel you, we hear you, we love you so much. And please remember, we rise together. As we close out, everybody, I would love for you all just to type in some hands up or a word for Shelly. Any words that you want to give to Shelly as we close. We love you. Thank you for showing up.
Thank you.
Thank you
Toda
for
rabah
showing up.
in Hebrew.
What does that mean?
Thank you.
Oh, tabalaba.
Toda rabah.
Toda laba.
Rabah.
Raba.
There you go.
We love you all. We'll
Love
see you
you.
next week. Bye, everybody. Mwah.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everyone.